Good morning and welcome to Local Business Focus. I'm Sally Barker. Joining us on the show today is Peter Trenaman from Groupsupport, proud station sponsor. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning again, Sally. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Did you like the 3D printing illustration? Did you look up what a neuralizer is?
No, I didn't actually, but I was very interested in the 3D printing. Yes, I do remember the movie Men in Black. I just wasn't that interested in watching it, to be honest.
So you've been affected by the neuralizer then?
I must have, yes.
Yes,
must have. I think it was around the time the kids came along, so I was a little bit...
Understandably.
Yes.
The impacts of 3D printing are massive, and the impacts of lots of other little devices and new things are also massive, and there's a lot of pressure on businesses to accommodate things they're not really ready for. And today we're talking about that exact thing. Are things being forced upon you that you're not quite ready for, and what are the implications of those? And the biggest buzzword at the moment that's going through industry is BYOD, which is bring your own device, okay? Or what I like to call is the three shades of IT, which is black, white and grey. The pressure for someone to bring their own device is largely generated by big business trying to save percentage points and costs, and by users who want their experience to continue no matter where they are.
So what does that mean anyway? Bring your own device. What does that mean?
Well, you can bring your laptop or your phone or your tablet to work and use it for work, okay? Or use it at work while you're, and it may not be your primary device, but it will be a device in your portfolio of devices that you're using at work. One of the best examples is salespeople using their mobile phone that is theirs and attaching to work emails or whatever so they don't have to carry two. How many times in the old days, when I was a lad, that we had to have two phones.
Yes.
One which was our personal phone and one which is work. And that's still the case for many industries and many places. And so today I want to talk about some of the do's and don'ts of BYOD and whether it's right for you. Some people have chosen and specifically made the decision not to accept them. And that's a fair decision. It has to be respected as long as it's broadcast and agreed to by your staff. One of the things that we need to do is allow for the boundaries to be maintained of business. And we've spoken about boundaries of health, boundaries of mental sanity, boundaries of security. And these are all things to do with BYOD that are part of the decision-making process. And making the right decision for the right reasons is what's required. Don't make the decision because everybody says so. Or your mate Joe, who's does something different, isn't in IT, doesn't run a business like you do, says it's a great idea. That's not the right way to make that decision. You need to make the decision for yourself. So we're just going to cover off a few things that you need to consider.
Okay.
Now, the internet is fun. Okay, so we go Facebook, and you catch up with your friends, you watch a bit of TV, you see the ads and all the promotions on TV, to watch TV on your phone or your mobile. You can watch movies, you can listen to music, do all these things, play games. There's so much out there. You can constantly get distracted by information feeds, news, podcasts, Twitter feeds, and there's actually, which reminds me, I want to highlight a specific point. There's a move at the moment within Australia to act as a test bed to help those people who can't let go of those things and get depressed as a result.
Right.
They get overwhelmed and mentally they suffer. And they get anxious and even suicidal. And so there's a great move, and I think it's admirable for a company the size of something like Twitter to actually take a lead, make a stand, and provide some tools for the people who can't cope as well with the massive amount of information that's available, so that they can actually survive and actually live a happy life. But anyway, so the media and the social engineering that's happening through mass marketing and the popularity of buzzwords gives you the idea that BYOD and bringing your devices to work is a great idea. I have trouble working out where the boundary is, because it's a bit like teenagers with their phones. Do you allow your teenagers to sit at the table while you're having tea with their phones? Because if they had their phones there, you wouldn't get a peep out of them. Whereas we train our teenagers to talk and to actually have a conversation. You know, the requirement is that they actually engage on a person-to-person basis, not sit there talking to their friends miles away.
Yeah.
You know, if you're around a table, it's a family time. It's a break from technology. We have clean rooms so that when they're sleeping, there's nothing in there that will distract them from sleeping.
Yeah. Because
some of their friends don't know the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So when they're working, do they say, "Oh, I can't do it on Facebook at the moment because I'm working"?
Yeah.
You know, has that ever happened? No. What would you expect of your staff? What would you expect of the people who are working around you? Can they separate? Google and the big companies provide such motivation to stay connected and to be part of the team that the employees haven't got time and they don't want to go on Facebook and to get distracted. But your little business, my little business, I can't always provide that motivation. So what do I need? Do I need rules to say, no, you can't go on Facebook? Do I need to set up firewalls? Do I need to buy a $500 or $600 router and have it maintained regularly in order to set those boundaries so that during office hours you can't go on Facebook? Now that's a huge ask.
Yeah.
Now most small businesses, one or two man businesses, can't afford that.
No.
So do you say no to BYOD?
Mm-hmm.
But that then costs for equipment. So you'll need to supply a phone with your staff member. Do you supply a mobile phone? Do you supply a landline phone? What do you supply? Mm-hmm. So there's a decision to be made. And once again, your trusted guru, your IT professional will help you guide you through that pathway. But
with specific information for your business.
That's right. And so it's a decision-making process of where the boundaries are. Now, do you have a policies and procedures manual? And do you have rules and regulations to say you can't go on Facebook, you can't do inappropriate comments, you can't do this, you can't do that while you're at work? Mm-hmm. Or do you trust your staff not to? Do you supervise them? Is the room that you're working in an open office so that you can see the screens? Mm-hmm. How do you manage that process? There's a multitude of different ways of using basic technology, advanced technology, and pure and simple boundaries.
Yeah.
To get the best out of your staff, to get the best out of the devices, the technology, and to make a good mix, a happy blend, so that people aren't feeling imposed upon, they aren't feeling restricted and bound. They can do what's comfortable, knowing the rules and knowing what to expect, setting their expectations. There was one thing I wanted to talk about, which was blacklists, grey lists and white lists. A blacklist is, in IT, a blacklist is things you can't go. So when you're on the internet, you can't go to sites which are inappropriate content. And that's usually with work or when there's kids around. You can't go to adult sites and places where they sell illegal things. Grey lists are where things are a little bit murkier, where there's some content which is inappropriate to a specific demographic or group of staff. For instance, in the military, you can't go to sites which are possibly overseas or trawling for information. In children's areas, you can't go to sites which show violence or discuss genitalia and those sort of recreational drugs, alcohol, inappropriate language. There's a whole lot of range of the grey sites which are discretionary. They're banned on a discretionary basis when you're within a bigger network. And then there's whitelists. Many companies who have a BYOD device policy use whitelists. And a whitelist is a list of the sites you're allowed to go to when you're on the internet. If the site isn't on that list, you can't go to it. And that includes Facebook. That includes Twitter, YouTube, anything else that the company decides is not appropriate.
Mm.
Sometimes that's regulated by time, as I spoke about before, during business hours.
How do you regulate that if you're working for a business and part of your job is to update their Twitter feed and Facebook feed, but you're not allowed to do your own personal? How do you monitor that?
That's hard because Facebook doesn't label the different accounts. So quite often find that people blur those lines because they can't help themselves.
So that comes back to trust.
It comes back to trust and supervision. The best supervisors in the world have a constant conversation with their staff. So they're aware that there is some times when you get distracted. I mean, if you're working in a field where news and information comes in all the time, the opportunity to get distracted with that news and information, I mean, you must find that with journalism.
Yeah.
To be fixated upon the latest breaking news while you're doing a long-term research project sometimes could be quite debilitating for your concentration. But the point is, do you have a bit of self-control? Does the supervisor who's asking you about it, who's checking up and making sure that you're going to hit a deadline, are they reminding you about that so that you're motivated to complete it? The regulation of a particular workstation to do one thing or the other is relatively easy. You can simply make an exception in the rules for that one workstation, and quite often that's the case. That's what's happening in most businesses, is that one person is allowed to do Facebook or the media updates, but the normal call centre people, the people on the end of the phones taking orders, they're not allowed to go on.
Yeah.
There are some people who open it up for everybody, just depending upon trust. Like everything else, it's a discussion. And the technology is available to do almost anything. And it's how much you want to pay for those technologies.
Yeah, of course.
The BYOD device discussion centres around the three things, which is the cost of the replacement device or the cost of actually supplying the device from the company, so that the company says you're only allowed to go on these websites, these sources of information, and we're supplying the equipment, so we make the rules, and so it's easy to regulate.
Yeah.
If you're using your own device, it comes with all the gear on it.
Yeah.
So regulating and policing it's a lot harder. How do you do it? There's no one answer. It's different for everybody, and that's where a trusted IT source, a guru, steps in and can help you make those decisions and guide you with the costs associated with that. You know, there's you can buy routers which are $600-700 that'll do all this for you, but they need to be maintained. But you can go to a cheap electrical shop and buy a router for $80. So why would you buy an $80 router versus a $600 router?
Yes. Well, that could be a topic for another episode. All right, fascinating. BYOD, bring your own device. Now, thank you so much for joining us again this morning on Local Business Focus. Peter Trenaman from Groupsupport, proud station sponsor.
Thanks, Ellie.